Tactics Ogre Reborn brings back the hardcore strategy RPG that probably will push your patience to its limits. Even if you're into Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem series and similar titles, there is a high possibility that Tactics Ogre Reborn would push you to create the best team for that particular mission, gather some suitable armor for a boss fight, spells and classes if you want to take one single step further into the story, covered in blood. I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy Tactics. For maybe like over 20 years, I played it a lot from start to finish, did every side quest, unlocked every classes and dungeons, but still Tactics Ogre Reborn, being its predecessor, is quite rough, unforgiving even. If you're a hardcore Fire Emblem fan, Tactics Ogre Reborn will please you. If you like tactical strategy RPG with permadeath, medieval setup and political strifes, Tactics Ogre Reborn will once again please you. After 12 years of its PSP remake release, Tactics Ogre Reborn brings back the war-ridden lands of Valeria, war orphans, power-drunk political figures, knights, and our main character Denim, who is shaped by the player's moral and decisive choices. First, let me explain you about the world setting of Tactics Ogre Reborn, since it might be a bit complex to understand why there is a war in these lands and on whose side we are on. The land of Valeria used to be united as a single kingdom under King Dolgair, but after his death with no heir to the throne, three strong figures of Valeria rise to the power that will bring these lands to civil war. For a nation of Loris supporting the background Valeria faction, Galgastan Kingdom led by Cardinal Barbatos, and Valister region led by Duke Ronway. Galgastan rises to power and gains an upper hand, declaring itself as the ruler of all Valeria, putting Valister and Duke Ronway on its way to risk. Our story of Tactics Ogre Reborn and siblings of Denim and Kachua begins right at this point. The town where Denim, Kachua and their childhood friend Weiss used to live is attacked by dark knights of these lands, and these three war orphans are now burning with vengeance and will to stop this bloodshed for good. After a couple of years, our three characters hear a gossip about Lancelot coming to their town, the very same Lancelot that attacked their town, killing everyone. Denim, Kachua and Weiss tries to attack this Lancelot, but only to learn that they're actually a band of white knights in exile, looking for mercenary work. With these new allies, Denim, Kachua and Weiss agree on freeing the Duke Ronway of Valister forces so that they might receive support and funds from the Duke himself, turning into an actual force that will shape the land. However, the world of Tactics Ogre is quite cruel. In this blood-painted world, Denim, as the main character, must also dip his hands in blood. There is no escape from it. Either you become the symbol of hope and resistance, or become a fugitive, an exile, or Duke Ronway's most trusted man. Your path will be full of corpses of your enemies. Here I would like to talk about Tactics Ogre's best aspect, the choices, and how much it affects your gameplay. It might be quite shocking, but this game is originally made for SNES and from 1995, and it still has one of the best choices and storytelling among RPG and JRPG titles. Tactics Ogre Reborn has 4 different chapters, and by the end of each chapter, you will have a big choice sequence that will shape your story, the bosses, and how the world will be shaped. Without any spoilers, Denim's route starts with neutral, and by the end of chapter 1, you will have 2 choices, one leading to the lawful side and one to chaotic. These choices respectively do not mean good or evil, but rather obeying your orders, respecting the authority, honoring the tradition. And chaotic implies freedom, sometimes recklessness, and in Tactics Ogre, mostly the resentment toward legitimate authority. This alone might give some insight on the routes that Denim will take at the end of chapter 1. Another big choice is at the end of chapter 2. That might let you continue the same alignment path you took by the end of chapter 1, or might lead you to neutral path. But once you either choose lawful or chaotic, you cannot just change into opposite one, and chapter 3 just continues with the last, meaning that you decide your very ending or your journey through chapter 1 and 2. Besides these, there are also some additional choices that affect your story and main missions, leading you to unlock additional and quite useful hero units, helping you to finish the story. Even though Tactics Ogre Reborn is a remaster of the PSP version Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, it has new additional mechanics, class and character adjustments, visual changes that some might consider as upgrades or some won't, making Tactics Ogre Reborn actually like a definitive version, and like me, some people still might see the PSP version as superior. First of all, Tactics Ogre Reborn has quite the same gameplay mechanics like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. Each character has possible amount of move blocks, they have their turn speed differing depending on their class, they can either use melee weapons like swords, axes, knives, katanas and hammers, and as range attacks, bows, crossbows and spells are your best bet. Here, alongside with explaining the gameplay mechanics, I will give you some beginner's tips so that you won't stuck at some story mission and boss, since there is no possibility to grind your way throughout the game. There is a level cap depending on the story progress you're on. This level cap is stated as union level, and no matter what you do, your characters won't pass this level, meaning that you won't pass a story mission or a boss just throughout level grinding, but you need to have optimal gear, optimal classes, units, and use your head actually strategizing throughout that level. But have no fear, I am here. Right from the start, Tactics Ogre Reborn will let you hire ordinary folk to your ranks. You will name them, level them up, give them gear, and change their class however you wish to. Rune Fencers and also the Valkyries for females are one of the best classes within the game. They can heal, cast damage spells, and also use spears to deal damage. They cannot cast an AoE spells just like mages, warlocks, and witches, but they're also quite durable, can heal your way out of dire situations and lead you to victory. Besides these, I think you should have at least one cleric, just pure healer, and maybe one knight in your ranks, making the knight tanking the damage, healing any low health unit, and clerics being the pocket heal slot of the team, resurrecting fallen units, granting them haste, and maybe even to exorcise zombies, skeletons, whatsoever. Berserkers are also recommended by many, which I never used, but here I would also recommend you the Beast Tamers that can unlock during chapter 2, enabling you to tame any dragons or griffons, recruiting a tank and mobile unit to your ranks. Archers at first might seem also useful here, but they feel quite weak around late chapter 2 and early chapter 3 battles, so it might be better to change your archers later on into ninja kunoichi class or maybe warlock witch. For denim, I mostly went with warrior until I unlocked the swordmaster on chapter 3, which was quite a mistake here. He can do a way better job as rune fencer, ninja, and knight throughout the chapter 1 and 2, so you might do better than I did during your experience. I believe many will have different tips and tricks for Tactics Ogre Reborn, since lawful, neutral, and chaotic have different bosses, different battles, and different handling of the story. This might seem like a good approach for increasing the replayability of the game, however the reality is cruel, and let me remind you about the level cap here once again. Maybe that's why I love Final Fantasy Tactics and would prefer like 10 times over Tactics Ogre Reborn. I love to break Final Fantasy Tactics with over-leveling. I love to tinker with its classes, create my own using weird but useful passive abilities, moves, and gear for my liking. However, Tactics Ogre Reborn limits this with level cap, and since there is no subclass element within this game, it's a bit hard to tinker with its mechanics. Well, at least you can turn back in time and play the other routes when you finish the game. However, your first run of Tactics Ogre Reborn will be full of blood, pain, and suffering, and it will test your patience to its utmost limit. So beware. The goals of the missions are quite similar to Fire Emblems in general, meaning that as long as you defeat the target of that story fight, you are safe and good. Nearly 90% of the time, you don't need to defeat each and every enemy on the map, and when Tactics Ogre Reborn's maps with different terrains, gaps considered, at least this is a blessing. You'll find your units blocking the path in most of times, preventing you to attack or even to heal, so not only you need to think about keeping your units alive, but also consider to divide the aggro, making some of your knights or even mages act as a decoy, while at least Denim and also your best bet Wing Boy Kanofus to get closer to your target. You can also try to recruit some of the enemies to your own ranks to increase your chances of survival, or try to keep your units alive to prevent permadeath. Tactics Ogre Reborn will have lots of choices for you to consider. There will be tons of clerics, warriors, knights, archers, and mages blocking your path, but as long as your target is down, you will accomplish that mission and continue with the story. Well, at least I'm talking about chaotic route here, but same can also be said for neutral, and my guess lawful won't be different from others. That's why always equip healing items, spells for range damage while pushing the target into the corner. And let's say you fucked up at somewhere, you couldn't revive one of your unit in 3 turns and lost it forever, and it's even worse if it's one of the hero units crucial for the story. Then you can turn back the time with the mode of Tactics Reborn, the Wheel of Fate. You can go back in time in 30 to 40 moves of characters, including yours and the enemies, and can try different outcomes to win that fight or try to keep your units alive. Although this function might feel like it makes the fights a bit easier than before, it is not. AI always try to make it balanced even if you go back in time, so sometimes it depends on your luck to deal critical damage or try with a new approach to increase your chance of survival. You will also see a new function of appearing cards on the battlefield, which can increase your physical or spell damage, critical chance or percentage of your passive abilities to proc when these cards are picked up, and each character alongside with the enemy units can carry 4 cards in total. Just think about Denim or Konofus or any other heavy damage dealer character carrying 4 of these cards of physical damage or just critical change. You will, for no doubt, one hit your target or anyone on your path. There will be blood and no one can prevent this. Never ignore these cards and luck will be on your side. Last but not least, be sure to check the Warren reports during your journey to learn more about the world of Tactics Ogre, what is happening during your conquest, and to unlock new dungeon maps that would help you to grind levels, items and money, and also provides infinite amount of dragons in case if you want to fill up your party with them. I know many of you, despite the idea of grinding levels and fighting in these dungeons just to continue the story, I know how Square Enix works and I know how these games are. Just set up the AI mode of each character and watch your characters fight by themselves and bring you money and sweet XP. Since there's a level cap depending on the actual progress of the story, well, grind is inevitable, and without grinding, the main quest can become like hell and would push you to use your luck and head combined to close the gap between levels. There are many great details about how to recruit more hero units, its missable contents, and how the choices actually shape the world of Tactics Ogre and Denim's journey. I just love it. However, having a level cap can bring out some of the longest and sometimes even the most frustrating strategy RPG battles that you might see. Having always a challenging gameplay might also sound interesting, but sometimes you just want to have it a bit easy after playing so much and investing on your characters. You want to feel a bit strong or mighty, let's just say, not just some survivor in this war-ridden world. Maybe because of this and the customization choices and the sprites, I think I still prefer Final Fantasy Tactics over Tactics Ogre Reborn. Hell, I might even go for Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions next to show you guys that piece of a masterpiece. Tactics Ogre can be played on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch and PC for $50 and if you're into medieval strategy JRPG stuff, you would love this classic masterpiece.